Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my Champions League Matchday 4 predictions. I very much redeemed myself in Matchday 3, even got the outcome right for PSV versus Napoli. I made the mistake to change my prediction for Kairat versus Pafos last minute, should have stuck with the 0-0 draw. Went a bit too ambitious for that Karabag result. I ended up choosing the wrong match to finish in a draw, obviously. Other than that, only got the Sporting versus Marseille result incorrect. I'll be honest though, Matchday 3 was definitely one of the easier ones to navigate. Matchday 4 might be a bit more tricky. We have a lot of very entertaining fixtures here, and let's just hope for a good week of Champions League football. If you guys are enjoying this series, please don't forget to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you're new as well, to let me know you want me to continue this prediction series. Anyway, let's get straight into it, starting off with Napoli versus Frankfurt. Napoli the side to concede 6 goals to PSV. Yes, I got that prediction correct for PSV to win, but I would have never thought that they would concede 6. What an embarrassment for Napoli. Scott McTominay's brace was not enough. Now, a huge reason why I was not confident in Napoli to perform in that match was because of all the injuries they had. But Scott McTominay miraculously returned for that match against PSV. He looked to be doubtful, and Hollyun's back as well. Only problem is they're now cycling through their key players to be sitting out. Now it looks to be De Bruyne they'll be missing this fixture. It's a huge loss, and Conte will really need to learn how to adapt without him now, as he'll be sitting out for quite a long time, looking to get surgery. Nothing's changed for Lukaku. He's likely to be out for another month and a half, and we'll see. I mean, Napoli did wake up after that heavy PSV blow, securing a huge victory in the title race against Inter, but then a narrow win against Lecce, and now they drew to Como 0-0 over the weekend. So maybe Napoli really needed that wake-up call in the last UCL Matchday, but it's clear that Conte for some reason does not have that same magic in UEFA competitions. The furthest he's made it in the Champions League ever is the quarterfinals, by the way. That being said, this is the perfect time to regain their form, as I'm not sure if I'm true on this fact, but Frankfurt looked to be the only side to have, after 3 matches, a 5-1 victory and then 2 5-1 defeats, even getting destroyed by a Liverpool who were in a horrible state of form. They bounced back after though against St. Pauli in the DFB Pokal. They nearly did it against Dortmund and had to go to penalties and they lost there, and then a draw to Heidenheim over the weekend. So obviously it's not looking so pretty for either side in form. Both just lost in the last match day by 4 goals, and Frankfurt also have some unknown return dates for injuries like Uzun. Ultimately, I see Napoli succeeding with a 3-1 victory. We move on now to Slavia Praha versus Arsenal. Shout out to Slavia Praha for pulling off the draw against Atalanta. I don't think many expected that, and since then they have not conceded a single goal. Their defense is actually looking quite solid, but 2 things are unfortunate for them. 1, they now have a good amount of injuries in the back line, and 2, they're coming up against another side that are incredible defensively right now, Arsenal. They did not concede a single goal in all of October. Sure, people are making fun of Arsenal with their style of play right now, mostly scoring from set pieces, but I can't hate on them. Arteta has had enough of consistently falling short. He needs to win some silverware. Champions League might be a stretch, but who knows, he went pretty far last time. There is no denying that they are one of the most informed teams in Europe right now. Slavia Praha are a cool side, but I would be shocked if they pull off the win here. Only somewhat upset I could see is if they pull off the 0-0 draw, nobody scores, but Arsenal are continuously getting on the score sheet as well. I think they can get the 3-0 victory away. Let's take a look at Atletico Madrid versus Royal Union now. Royal Union are now 5 matches in under their new manager Hubert. And of course, his only loss in those 5 was against Inter, getting smashed 4-0. This side are a fierce competitor in Belgium. They're top of the league right now. But ever since they defeated PSV on that first match day, they have totally collapsed within the Champions League. 2 consecutive 4-0 defeats, and it's not going to be any easier now. They're taking on Atletico Madrid away as well. Atletico also just conceded 4 in the Champions League in the last match day, continuously falling short to the Premier League clubs. But they did smash Frankfurt in the second, and within La Liga, they are finding their rhythm once again, just defeating Sevilla 3-0. Tax looking serious once again. I know there's some uncertainty with Alvarez's future within the club, but all that being said, Atletico Madrid are definitely the huge favorites in this fixture. To be honest, I see Royal Union losing once again 4-0. But now for this iconic fixture between Liverpool and Real Madrid. I wonder if Trent knew he was going to face his old club this soon. Now yes, Liverpool finally got their first Premier League win since September. Like I briefly mentioned, they have been in horrible form. I feel like that Frankfurt result really saved Slot's job, because apart from that, so many consecutive losses. Have they finally turned things around at the right time, and can they get a result against one of the best teams in the world? Normally Anfield is a fortress, but they do not have the resume resume to back that fact up right now based on the results within the past month. I mean, even Manchester United won for the first time there in 10 years. And honestly, within recent history, this is kind of a rivalry within the Champions League. Obviously, the whole Trent situation is the latest proof, but these sides have gone head-to-head so many times, with dramatic Champions League finals as well. The last time they met, Liverpool were victorious, but Madrid were definitely in shaky form at that time. While Liverpool have been losing all their matches in October, Real Madrid have been winning all of theirs. Their latest result smashing Valencia. Liverpool's new signing Alexander Isak will definitely be missing this match due to an injury. Not like that's the biggest loss though. The likes of Frimpong and Alisson being absent definitely hurts more. Now I know Liverpool's form has been horrendous recently, but I still would say they have a decent shout to get a result in this fixture. I really wouldn't be fully shocked if I'm wrong on this one, but I do think Real Madrid will get the 2-1 victory away. Just based on the recent results, it's definitely safer to back them here. Let's move on now to Tottenham versus Copenhagen. Tottenham's Thomas the Frank engine has seemed to fallen off the tracks, only getting 2 wins in his last 6 matches, and just getting knocked out of the Carabao Cup to Newcastle. Their last 2 Champions League results also finished in draws, and their only victory in the competition was a narrow one to Villarreal. The morale within Tottenham isn't great. I mean, the players are blanking Thomas Frank like that right after the Chelsea loss. Hard to be so potent up front when so many strikers are out injured. But now they should look to go back to winning ways within the Champions League. Copenhagen has been conceding quite a lot of goals recently. Within the Champions League this season, they never conceded less than 2. So despite Tottenham not being perfect right now, this is definitely their opportunity to bounce back. I'm saying they get the 2-0 victory at home. Now moving on to Olympiacos versus PSV. Both these sides have definitely changed their trajectories within this season. If these sides were to play each other in the first match day, I would have said Olympiacos are the favorites. But that result PSV pulled off against Napoli, scoring 6 goals. It's always unbelievable when it looks like Petrobras isn't to be trusted, he pulls off some magic. And this was one of PSV's best ever performances in the Champions League. Hats off to the Romanian Dennis Mon, he was incredible in that match. PSV still have been conceding quite a lot of goals, but are also scoring loads. They haven't slowed down in the attack at all, scoring 3 against Feyenoord away and then 5 on Halloween. Meanwhile, Olympiacos haven't necessarily been bad, but it has been slow. Undefeated in their last 3, fair enough, even defeating AEK. But surprisingly in the Champions League, they've only scored 1 goal so far against Barcelona, who they lost 6-1 to. I will say the red card they picked up in that match though was not deserved. They couldn't even score against Paphos while they had a red card for most of the match, despite having some brilliant attackers like El Khabi and Mehdi Taremi. Olympiacos will obviously need to adapt without Heze, as he's the one who picked up the red against Barcelona, but they need to be tactically smart defensively against PSV because this Dutch side are just so electric right now. Very pacey play, it can throw off any team. I see this one being high scoring for both teams. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 2-2 draw, but I'm going to say PSV pull it off with a 3-2 victory. Moving on now to another tricky one to call, Juventus versus Sporting. There should be a favorite in this, but not only is Juventus' form shocking right now, they also have a very poor record against Portuguese clubs. They'll be happy it's not Benfica this time at least. But Sporting are looking very good right now. The Colombian Luis Suarez has made all fans forget about Gyökeres, as they have still been lighting each of their matches up. Yeah, they did get a bit lucky, Marseille got a red card in that Champions League clash, but they still thoroughly deserved the victory. If this were only like 1 match day ago, I'd say they'd be facing Juventus at the perfect time. Now things are too uncertain as they just got rid of Igor Tudor and have appointed Spalletti. It's definitely a controversial signing with how he did with the Italian national team, but maybe he just prefers his club football. He had a lot of success with Napoli. In Spalletti's debut, he did pull off an away win. Definitely impressive as Kenan Yildiz was ruled out. He is expected to return against Sporting. There are a few other injuries within the back line with unknown return dates. So there's a lot of uncertainty for this one. I'd say this is definitely one of the tougher fixtures to predict. I'm going to say it's a cagey affair and it finishes in a 1-1 draw. But this is probably the match of match day 4. PSG versus Bayern Munich. It's the last season's Champions League winner against the most informed team in Europe right now. Yes, I talked about how incredible Arsenal have been, but Bayern right now are on a 15-match winning streak. Not just unbeaten, they have won all of their 15 matches. You really got to applaud Vincent Kompany for all the criticism, all the doubt. He has now made this team look like one of the best in the world. And it's not often a narrow victory. They are most of the time outclassing teams left and right. Sometimes conceding that odd goal, but you cannot deny they have been marvelous. Harry Kane, counting the Club World Cup, has 29 direct goal contributions already this season. The winger reinforcement has been phenomenal. Nicholas Jackson even, a decent sub. But now they 100% have their toughest task yet. The last Champions League winners. PSG on the surface look to be a bit slower compared to last season. Within Ligue 1, they have had some cagey matches, but sometimes the lineups Luis Enrique puts out for those matches are not his best. It honestly looks like he's experimenting in the domestic league to get the best out of his players in the Champions League. And it's perfect proof as they scored 7 past Leverkusen in the last match day. Only problem for PSG now is Desiree Doué will be ruled out of this match. Also, Zarbani got a red card against Leverkusen, but obviously there's so much more reinforcement within this team. And with both clubs' recent resumes, the squad they have on paper, this is going to be one of the most electric but 50-50 matchups to call. I'm not confident about my pick, but I do think Bayern can extend their winning streak. I'm going to say they narrowly push through against PSG with a 2-1 away victory. This is an unbelievable PSG team though. I could easily be proven wrong. If they pull off the win here, they could continue to prove the world why they're one of the best teams in a very long time. Let's take a look now at Bodo Glimt versus Monaco. Bodo Glimt still looking for their first Champions League victory. They've already had 2 thrilling draws, but then lost to Galatasaray while traveling away. But now with them at home, they very much can grab their first win. As I've mentioned numerous times, this is one of the most difficult grounds to travel to. Not just location and weather, but also the pitch conditions. These guys playing on artificial turf, a lot of away sides are not used to it. Monaco are not looking for their first in history, but their first win this season in the Champions League. They did draw with Manchester City and Tottenham, but lost to Club Brugge on the first match day. But the recent form also domestically hasn't been anything to show off for. Plenty of draws all of October, a narrow victory against Toulouse, scoring 5 over Nantes, but over the weekend lost to newly promoted Paris FC at home. Bodo have played 3 matches since that Galatasaray loss, won 2, but did lose over the weekend, conceding 3 goals. While Monaco have a lot of key injuries in the midfield. Kamada's out, Zakaria, Eric Dyer will be missing this match, Radecki not an option in between the sticks. Another one filled possibility, but with Bodo playing at home, we saw how they nearly did it against Tottenham. I think they can win 2-1 here. Moving on now to Pafos versus Villarreal. Pafos' defensive game in the Champions League needs to be studied. They've had 2 matches now where they conceded an early red card and it still finished 0-0. But that was against Olympiacos and Kairat. They were not able to pull that kind of stuff off against a team in the top 5 leagues. Now they're coming up against one from Spain who have been looking electric in the attack, just unfortunately falling short against tough opposition. Recently losing to Manchester City, Real Madrid. They did pull off a draw against Juventus though. Canadian Tejan Buchanan has been in great form. Their other new signings like Miko Latte has been solid too. Pafos might try to play that defensive game, but I see Villarreal winning this one 2-0. Moving on to the famous Karabakh versus Chelsea. Now these sides faced in the 2017-18 Champions League season, and Karabakh conceded 10 goals total to the Blues. That being said, the Azerbaijani club have been on an impressive rise. They did recently lose to Athletic Club, but prior got 2 victories and have scored 6 goals total so far in 3 matches. They're obviously a wild card in this competition right now, and their spirits still could be high despite the loss to Athletic Club Bilbao. In that match, we saw Andrade score in the first minute, and he's the first player in history to do that in 3 different European matches. Chelsea have been inconsistent this season, so it wouldn't be wild to see an upset here, but they're still showing that they are a top side. In the last Champions League match day, they destroyed Ajax 5-1, but straight after lost to Sunderland. So it's kind of hard to gauge this team. They do have their random dips in form, but I do still see the Blues prevailing here with a 3-0 victory. Moving on out to another iconic match, Manchester City versus Dortmund. Manchester City usually getting the best of Dortmund within history. They've won 3 times. The last time Dortmund were able to defeat Manchester City was all the way back in the 2012-13 season. Dortmund lately have been approaching matches with more defensive caution, keeping it very cagey in many of their domestic matches. But then in the Champions League, it's a different story. In each of their last 3 matches, they've scored 4. Will Niko Kovac decide to be more cautious against Manchester City the same way he was against Bayern, where he kept it narrow against the German giants who have been in fantastic form? It obviously didn't pay off at the end, giving Bayern all that possession and time to play, and I don't think it would be wise to do that against Manchester City either, as although this side have been having their hiccups, it seems like they overall have the groove of things under control, and on their day, they should be able to beat Borussia Dortmund. Erling Haaland coming up against his former club once again. His goal tally this season has been unbelievable, just scoring a brace this weekend as well. Both his goals were provided by Cherki. Maybe it's time Pep finally starts him more. Man City overall have not been perfect this season, but are definitely keeping their identity more intact compared to last season when they had that disaster form run. This one should definitely be a high intensity match if Dortmund kind of bring that same energy that they have been within the Champions League in the past few matches. I think this one will finish 3-2 for Manchester City. Moving on now to Newcastle versus Athletic Club Bilbao. Athletic Club last season were terrific. This season, not so much. Just losing to the rivals Real Sociedad over the weekend 3-2, prior losing to Getafe. They're actually falling short in most of their matches, picking up that win against Karabakh in the last UCL Matchday and beating Mallorca earlier in the month. But that's why I predicted a draw last time for Athletic Club versus Karabakh. I don't trust this side right now. Nothing's really changed in the last match day, and now they're coming up against some much tougher opposition. Newcastle did have that stinker against West Ham, but in the Champions League, they've been really good. 2 wins and 1 loss. Their 1 loss being to Barcelona, and it was a narrow affair. They totally outplayed Benfica and Royal Union after. Going to St. James's Park will not be easy, and the optimism within this team is on another level right now. This is their best run in European football in quite a long time. I mean, they've got the Hyperion up top, making the Geordies quickly forget about losing Alexander Isak. On their day, the pressing is incredible. Anthony Gordon in the Champions League has really solid numbers. Even though Newcastle did lose to West Ham over the weekend, I still think they're the favorites in this fixture. I'm saying they defeat Athletic Club 3-1. Moving on to a match that happened last season in the Europa League, Ajax versus Galatasaray. I believe that was the last match in the league phase and Ajax got the win. But this Ajax side right now are not even close to that same beast. They've really seemed to be struggling to reclaim that identity under Hettinga. Sure, there's some injuries within the attack, but the overall quality of this side are not up to par with what Ajax standards should be. Meanwhile, Galatasaray, after being in shocking form in European football, have really risen to the occasion. Yes, they did get smashed by Frankfurt, but they didn't necessarily have their strongest lineup. Now they defeated Liverpool at home, they even took care of Bodo Glimt, but it's still a huge question mark how they'll do away. And Turkish clubs against the Dutch teams don't really have the best resume. Also, their away record in European football is horrible, but they've already defied the odds so far. I think they 100% have what it takes to continue their winning streak right now against a very uninspiring Ajax. I'm going for 3-1. I mean, they've already conceded 12 goals in 3 matches. I think Galatasaray can very much add to that tally. Now for Club Brugge versus Barcelona. Now Club Brugge have had a fantastic start to this Champions League campaign with the 4-1 victory over Monaco. Definitely dipped in form after that, failed to defeat Atalanta. Definitely got unlucky to have to face a very informed Bayern. They are not the favorites whatsoever against Barcelona, obviously, but Club Brugge are still very solid at home in European football. Barcelona, although they smashed Olympiacos in the last match day, they've been far from perfect themselves, just losing in El Clasico, scraping through against Girona prior, and then just defeating Elche this weekend. This incredible club definitely have not been themselves with some key injuries. Rafinha might be returning for this fixture though, that's a huge plus. But now Pedri gone all month, that's a huge loss. Maybe Barcelona will lack some creativity against one of the best clubs in Belgium, but even if it's a close match, I do see luck going on their side. I think it will be a bit more narrow than people think though. I'll go for 2-1 Barcelona. Benfica versus Leverkusen. Now all eyes are going to be on the likes of PSG versus Bayern, Liverpool versus Real Madrid, but this might be one of those underrated fixtures you gotta watch out for. 2 quality sides that haven't really established themselves yet in the way they want to. Obviously, Bayer Leverkusen undergoing a lot of changes within this season, getting rid of their best players, going through that strange managerial appointment. Now under Kasper Heumann, they haven't been so bad, but they got crushed against PSG and Bayern Munich. Meanwhile, Jose Mourinho has been managing Benfica for nearly the same amount of matches, and his only 2 losses so far came in the Champions League, both to Premier League clubs. So both these managers are still looking for their first Champions League win with their new club. Benfica recently got some convincing wins after that Newcastle loss, while Leverkusen just had that blow against Bayern, but we've already talked about how incredible Bayern have been. Mourinho kept clean sheets in his last 3 matches, but I think within the Champions League, he doesn't have really a game plan defensively. They look to be all over the place, for example, against Newcastle. But Leverkusen have arguably been even more disorganized in the defense. They're just showing their strengths in the attack mostly. For me, there's going to be a lot of leaky goals in this, a high-scoring thriller. I'm going for a 3-3 draw in Lisbon. Not a result wanted for either of these clubs though. Like I said, neither of them have won their first Champions League match, and they really need to pick up more points if either of them want to climb up that table. Inter versus Kairat now. This is definitely the easiest one to predict out of the bunch. Imagine if we see the Kazakhstan club pull off the upset in Milan. I highly doubt it, but who knows, it's football. Inter have definitely had a very doable schedule in the Champions League so far. Facing an Ajax who we talked about have been in dreadful form, one of the weaker sides on paper Slavia Praha, and then debutants Royal Union. Coming up against their second debutant in a row, Inter have no excuses here. I think they should win this one pretty comfortably 5-0. Moving on now to Marseille versus Atalanta. Now, earlier in the season, Marseille were looking to be in fantastic form, beating PSG, demolishing Ajax. There was even a match where Mason Greenwood scored 4 goals. But then we had that match where I got my prediction wrong for them to defeat Sporting. They straight after that lost to Lens, then drew 2-2 and barely scraped through over the weekend. Meanwhile, Atalanta haven't won a match all of October. Their last win was in the second Champions League matchday against Club Brugge. They got their revenge there, but many consecutive draws, and then over the weekend they lost to Udinese. So for sure, neither of these sides are to be trusted right now. But in my opinion, Marseille have had more miraculous moments throughout this season. So on their given day and with them at home, I think that's a huge advantage. Meanwhile, I said it since the beginning of the season, I don't really trust the Croatian manager Judic. Sure, Atalanta had a tough schedule recently, but I still think some of these results were unjustified for their standards. I think they definitely should have beaten Slavia Praha at home, for example. I think this one will either finish in a draw or Marseille pull off the win. I'm going to just go for that 1-1 draw though. We'll see. But there you have it, guys. Those are all of my Champions League Matchday 4 predictions. As always, let me know where I went wrong in the comments below. And don't forget to leave a like if you want me to continue this Champions League Matchday prediction series. Now with the World Cup coming closer and closer, I might transition my content more to that, but I still want to leave this series out for you guys if you all are enjoying it. Anyway, I'll see you all very, very soon. Best of luck to your club. Take care. La con noche.